Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. I hope you all are having a very nice weekend here. It's not too hot, not too cold. And the prasad, the spiritual food, is very good. Okay. So you come many times here?
No, not here. But to the temple.
Oh, I see. We're going to continue our discussion today about what makes you tick. What are the motivations that are driving you onward, and where do you get those motivations from? And don't worry, it's not that we're saying automatically that if you're getting your motivations from society and your family that it's bad. We're not saying that. What we are saying is that you should at least recognize where you're getting your motivations from. You should recognize where the story that's driving your life comes from. And then you decide whether it's the story that you want or don't want. Because often we live our life on autopilot without examining the underlying assumptions. Therefore, when it comes to our options, and everyone likes to have options, we have already restricted and limited ourselves to materialistic options. Okay, materialistic in a nice way, but still materialistic. When we look at what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, we don't know how to take it because we've been so programmed for material success. Of course, everyone needs to take care of themselves and their families. There's no doubt about that. In Bhagavad Gita, as we explained yesterday, Arjuna is a family man. He's an administrator, he's a warrior. So he's not irresponsible. Yet, he understands the highest priority. He understands the number one priority. This is what we may be missing in our life. The number one priority, which is our spiritual development. If we just stress the material side, what happens? We are stressed. And we're never satisfied. There's this idea that if you get a certain amount of money, you'll be satisfied. In the early 20th century, you see, economists had the idea, the notion that let the wealthy become more wealthy, and then gradually the wealthy will reach a point in which money doesn't interest them anymore. And so the wealthy will become interested in the arts, supporting the arts, and doing charity, doing philanthropy. Well, now economists admit that that dream never happened. Greed for money leads to simply more greed for money. So you don't want to get caught in that trap. Now, many of you yesterday said that you want to be happy. Success is happiness. That's kind of an inner thing. Happiness. But then when you think about it more, in this world of musical chairs, in this world of ladder climbing and race running, when you think about it more, you scare yourself. You frighten yourself, telling yourself that unless I have more and more money, how can I be safe? Unless I have more and more conveniences, how will I have a good life? So you frighten yourself, don't you? You forget that it's possible to live simply with your main focus on your spiritual development while working, while raising a family. We're locked into this frantic pursuit, this frantic chase for ever-increasing security, ever-increasing convenience. But those things won't make you happy. There's only the dream of happiness. And we're always chasing that dream. The greatest treasure of India emphasizes that you connect with the ultimate source of pleasure. Only then can you be fulfilled and content. Many of you know that Krishna literally means the unlimitedly attractive source of pleasure. People talk about God, but they have no idea how the Supreme is the source of all pleasure. Therefore, people think that you should just do your duty and do some worship for God, but in terms of your own happiness and contentment, what does God have to do with that? So it's a shock when you hear that Krishna is the supreme expert in pleasure. You don't expect that. You think that material life is what gives pleasure, and God simply gives duty. Right? Material life gives pleasure, and God gives duty. And you do your duty to God so that material life will give you pleasure. When actually, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, material life gives you struggle, gives you challenges, gives you miseries, but Krishna is the ultimate source of pleasure. But what kind of pleasure is Krishna the ultimate source of? Krishna wants to give you pure spiritual happiness. But we cling so tightly to temporary, illusory, material happiness. We don't know any better. Just like if you say to this little boy here that there's life beyond playing with toys, and what kind of games do you play? What is that called? Pokemon? No, you don't do that one. What do you play? You don't play. If we tell him there's life beyond playing with his toys and games, he'll be shocked. How many of you, when you were little kids, I know I did this when I was a little kid, I wondered, why don't adults play? Why don't adults play with toys? Who wants to be an adult if you can't play with toys? Any of you think like that? Yes, I was always wondering. It's so nice to play with toys and run around with little friends. Why don't adults do that? So the little child cannot visualize that there's pleasure beyond the little childish activities. And of course, those childish activities come to an end. What about our activities? They're actually quite childish. They can be snuffed out like you blow out a candle at any moment. But we're so attached, right? You all want to make some success. You want respect. Okay. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita talks about respect. He told Arjuna, how can you abandon your duty to protect the innocent by fighting? For one who has been honored, dishonor is worse than death. So Krishna talks about respect in Bhagavad Gita, but it's not the main thing. Now let me ask you, what do you know about Krishna? Who can say something? What have you heard about Krishna? No one knows anything about Krishna? We'll take a look at Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 1. Meanwhile, no one can tell me anything they know about Krishna? Nothing. Yes.
He is the supreme.
And where did you hear that from?
From Bhagavad Gita.
Oh. And where did you hear about Bhagavad Gita from?
From my childhood, my grandmother used to tell me to read.
Okay, grandmothers play a great influence. Anyone else? What do you know about Krishna? No one knows anything else about Krishna.
He's all attractive.
All right, no, we know that you're very knowledgeable.
Krishna is the ocean of mercy.
Ocean of mercy. Where did you hear that from?
I experienced it myself.
How?
In every way, like before coming into ISKCON, I was into a lot of things.
Tell us.
Like I was going to wherever I used to see temple, wherever I used to see church, everywhere I used to go, mosque, everywhere I used to go. But I understood nothing. And also like I read Bhagavad Gita of some other authors and understood nothing. But once I read Bhagavad Gita as it is, then I understood at least the basic thing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God.
Anyone else?
He was another version of Vishnu,
Another version of Vishnu. What does that mean?
like avatar.
Actually, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says he's the source of everything. That means even Vishnu.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a common idea that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu. But if you read Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mata Pratanam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. There's nothing beyond me. Nothing means not Vishnu, not Narayan.
Okay.
Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna is the source of Vishnu and Narayan. But if you say Krishna's an avatar of Vishnu or Narayan, it's not the worst mistake you can make. It's just, at least you understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of God. So let's look at this verse from Bhagavad Gita. It describes our situation, what we would like to change about our situation, that is. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te guyatamam Pravakshyam yanasuyave Jnanam vijnana sahitam Yajgata mokshase shubhat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said. Remember yesterday we explained about Bhagavan? It's not just the name of a village rickshawwala. Bhagavan means one who possesses unlimited opulence. You have no idea of that. You've seen someone who possesses a little wealth, a little beauty, a little knowledge, etc. But you've never seen anyone who possesses unlimited of all these opulences. And that person who possesses unlimited opulences of wealth, strength, fame, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation, that person, that non-material, unlimited person, is speaking to you in Bhagavad Gita. And he says, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So this is Krishna's action program. Confidential knowledge and realization. Realization means that the knowledge is going to give you experience. Krishna's not saying, I shall now impart to you this most sacred religious belief. He doesn't say that. He's talking about applied spiritual technology. The application of spiritual science which produces experience. And then Krishna says there'll be a practical outcome, a measurable outcome of what I'm telling you. What is that measurable outcome? You'll be relieved of the miseries of material existence. What is one of the main miseries of material existence? You can't stay in that body forever. You'll be kicked out of your body at any moment. That's misery. And all the gratifications and pleasures that you try for materially, they come and go so quickly. They never touch the soul. So that's misery. And why is Krishna explaining this kind of knowledge to Arjuna? Because Arjuna is never envious of Krishna. So what does it mean to be envious of Krishna? What do you think? Many of you would say, you've never heard of Krishna so much, so how could you be envious of it? No one has ever thought about being envious of Krishna? Everyone looks innocent. Not envious of Krishna. But once you understand who is Krishna, then you start to see your own envy. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Now you're starting to understand. He's not only the supreme controller, the Parameshwara, but he's also the supreme enjoyer. And isn't that what we want to do? Yes? Isn't that what we want to do? That's our program. We want to control, why?
We can enjoy.
Yes. And that is imitating Krishna. We're so tiny. And our so-called enjoyment is so tiny. It comes and goes so quickly. And we have to work so hard for it. That's imitating Krishna. That's enviousness of Krishna. Subconsciously, we're saying, why should Krishna have all the pleasure? Let me get my own. I'll have my own associates. They'll admire me. They'll respect me. They'll worship me even. This is envy of Krishna. Our attempt to construct a independent material life for ourselves shows envy of Krishna. We don't want to live a life dependent on Krishna. It's like these little guys say, we're not living life dependent on our Father. Forget it. Would you ever say such a thing? Why not? How old are you? 10. You say, I'm 10 years old. I know so much. I know what I'm doing. Why should I live life dependent on my Father? I'm going to be independent. I shall show my powers of control and enjoyment. Everyone would say, that's ridiculous. You're just 10 years old. Be glad you have a good father. Depend on him. Don't be envious of his position. So this envy of Krishna is a main reason why we choose not to take Krishna seriously. We try to box Krishna up. Oh, he's a Hindu god. Or, he's the Hindu forest love god. But he's one amongst many gods. Pick whatever god you like and put some worship there. The more you worship, the more gods you worship, the better your chances that you might hit the right one. I call it the broad coverage insurance policy. Worship all the gods, you just never know which one is the real one. Right? But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that those who worship the devas, the demigods, they are mistaken. Because the devas, the demigods, are dependent on Krishna. So why should you try to bribe the low-level staff? You go to the top. That's what Bhagavad Gita is urging you. Go to the top and apply your worship, your love, your devotion there. So envy of Krishna plays a big role in life. And because of that envy, we never feel secure enough. We never have enough. It's the envy that's pushing us on in material life. Get more, imitate Krishna. Well, we're so tiny. And our bodies and minds are so temporary. And this world is so temporary. Still, we want to assert our supremacy. I can do what Krishna does. The more we find out about Krishna, the more we understand this psychology of envy of Krishna. In trying to be Krishna, in trying to be the controller and enjoyer, we go through so many austerities. And we say, oh, but this is life. And this is the kind of life you want to pass down to your children? A life of stress, high stress and anxiety? Let's watch some video clips from Silicon Valley. See what the first one is. Okay, let me explain this one. It's called Working Class Millionaires. This is a sociological study done in Silicon Valley. You know, many of you, that Silicon Valley in the US, so much wealth is concentrated there. It's actually not the wealthiest place in the USA. Southwestern Connecticut is, just south of Yale University, between Yale and New York City. That's the richest part of the USA. But Silicon Valley is number 2. So you can imagine what it's like, how much money you have to have just to live in Silicon Valley. Maybe you know some persons who live in Silicon Valley. Such expensive real estate. So there was a sociological study done. In order to qualify for this study, to be a part of it, you had to have a home worth at least $1 million. You had to have $1 million cash in the bank, and you had to have investments worth $1 million. Then you qualified for this research. And you'll see these persons who are the subject of such a research. And what do they say? We're not rich. We don't have enough. The way the world is, we need more and more and more. And you'll see the guy's working 70 hours a week, all for the sake of his family. But his family never sees him. Let's watch. So is this the life you want for yourself? Working 70 hours a week? He gave one excuse he gave was that his daughter might become uninsurable, so he wanted to have, in case to pay for another kidney operation, he wanted money on hand. His life in the USA, where the health coverage is quite non-existent compared to Australia. In any case, an interesting thing about this study of such persons is that, as you saw, he and his wife stated, we are not rich, we are middle class. If we had $10 million, then we'd be rich. So the bar keeps rising higher and higher. The goalposts keep moving. You ever have that kind of feeling? Yes. There's no end to it. But Krishna's illusory energy, Maya, tells you, if you just get this, that'll be it. You'll be satisfied. You'll be content. It never happens. So interestingly, you didn't see it in that video clip, but many persons who were part of this study said that, how can you call me rich? I just have a few $1 million. But let me tell you, how does my boy feel, my 7-year-old boy, when he's playing with little boys from around the corner on another street, and those boys, their father is worth 500 million. How do you think my boy feels? Therefore, I have to keep working hard, trying to get more and more. I don't want my boy to feel bad because his father's only worth $5 million. I want him to be able to hold his head up high when he's playing with his playmates whose dad is worth 500 million. See how crazy it gets? All this pressure. Any comments? What will be enough for you? How do you decide what's enough? There's always that urge. If I just get a little more, I'll be more secure, I'll be more successful, I'll get more respect. When you fly home to visit India, you want people to think that your opulences are ever increasing. You want them to look at you like, oh, with each visit he has more and more and more. Is that really the treasure of your life? That kind of artificial social respect based on external achievements? Let's look at another Silicon Valley video. Everyone here has heard of PayPal, yes? You're going to now watch one of the co-founders of PayPal who sold the business and came out with millions of dollars. He's a young guy. He did it in his 20s. Wouldn't that be the dream of all our IT wallahs here? A startup, and you sell it in your 20s for millions of dollars. Doesn't get any better than that, right? Well, let's see. What do you think? That's the way you want your life to go? You see, he's always eating on the run, you know. He can't even sit down and have a decent meal. Very unhealthy. He's so wired up, can you tell that? And his girlfriend or wife says, you know, I never see him. And did you hear what he said about after he sold his company for $1.5 billion? Did you hear what he said? The next year was the worst in my life. I was so depressed. I felt so useless. What's going on here? And then when he looks to the future, he said, unless I do something greater than what I did with PayPal, my life is a failure. I'll become just irrelevant. I'll be filed in the dustbin of history as just someone who did something big one time in the life. So you're probably saying, oh, put us in that situation, we'll respond differently, right? But you don't understand that there is a powerful material energy that captures you. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says it's Rajoguna, the guna, the quality of passion. It makes you so that you can't stop. You have to get more and more. Because why? What happens? You look around and see that others have more. There's always someone who has more than you. Just like in the IT world. This founder of Sun Oracle, Larry Ellison. He's so wealthy. He's in the top 10 wealthiest persons in the world. But what makes him angry? What name that's mentioned, when you mention what name makes him angry?
Bill Gates.
Right, because Bill Gates has more. Why does everyone talk about him? I saw him once explaining his situation. While looking completely miserable, he's telling the audience, I'm a very happy man. I can have whatever I want. Why just an airplane? I can have an airport. Why just a yacht? I can have a whole harbor. I'm a very happy man. I heartily recommend my situation to everyone. But he's famous for having no friends, being lonely, and always angry when Bill Gates' name is mentioned. You're thinking, oh, give us the money and we'll be more balanced, right? We'll show these guys what to do with the wealth. We'll still take care of our family. We'll still take care of our relatives. We'll be nice persons. We'll give a little bit in charity. Instead of putting $10 in the hundi at the temple, we'll put in a $100 note. We'll show that we can handle it better. No, there's an energy that's driving you onward. It is the mode of passion, as Bhagavad Gita explains. Krishna says, Raja Guna Samudbhava. This drive, this energy is born of the mode of passion. You're carried away by it helplessly. You feel it at the workplace, don't you? They exploit you in that way. Are you going to try harder? Are you going to give more? Give more of your energy. Give more of your time to the company. Everyone is doing this. What about you? Sacrifice more. So what do you think about that guy? Would you like to be in his shoes? Why not? Why not?
You can never win the race in materialistic world.
Yes, the finish line is always moving further and further away. You finish one race, and then there's the next race.
Another one.
So, in Bhagavad Gita, is Krishna telling Arjuna, drop all your occupation, don't do anything? No. Krishna tells Arjuna, Mam anusma yudham cha. Fight and think of me. Do your occupation with me in the center. So this weekend is a great opportunity for you to begin to consider how to balance your material affairs with the spiritual lifestyle. The spiritual lifestyle is the highest priority. So while executing your material affairs, the core of your life is spiritual. We have many working persons that are staff members for this retreat weekend. They're working IT jobs. They have families. They have wife, children, husband. But the core of their life, the center of their life, is different. Right? Your father works, right? His father goes from IT contract to IT contract. Been doing it for years. But meanwhile, his father is spiritually dedicated and always making arrangements for others to develop their Krishna consciousness, their true spiritual potential. So, there's home, there's wife, there's child, there's work, but it's different. Just as Krishna is telling Arjuna, you're fighting this war, but it's different. And remember, as we explained yesterday, Arjuna is in the occupation of law enforcement, protecting the innocent. Therefore, it was not a sin for him to fight. In fact, it would be sinful for him to avoid his duty, to avoid fighting to protect the innocent. And remember, we explained yesterday that the Battle of Kurukshetra was not some resource war or oil war. There were definite injustices that needed to be corrected. There was violence and aggression that needed to be stopped. So we hope that you'll start now to consider adding the spiritual core to your life. Don't wind up like those guys. Very empty, isn't it? The greatest wealth is within. That means your relationship between the soul and the Supreme Soul. That is the real wealth, which can never be taken away, can't be taxed, can't be stolen. But I think you're not convinced completely. Any questions? I think that you are thinking, oh, but that's Silicon Valley. Those Americans, you know, they always go over the top. They drive themselves crazy. They drive the world crazy. Let's go. Let's go to India and see. Suicide capital. Do you know what the suicide capital of India is? Yes, let's see about life there. Let's see how wonderful life has become there. Yes, so what do you think? Any comments? We saw Silicon Valley, but as we said, that's the USA, you know. But here you see Bangalore, India. What do you say? It's like everyone's become possessed, you know, by some strange energy. They're ready to sacrifice their life for all that, for call centers and IT. You heard the lady explaining, when we work, we give more than 100%. Work is worship. So you can see that you have to choose which demands to fulfill. Krishna requests that you live a Krishna-centered life in Bhagavad Gita, and the material energy demands more than 100% of your time, your energy. You can see IT is the center of that family, that South Indian family. Krishna is saying, work, yes. Take care of your family, yes. But what is in the center? Your spiritual development. How many of you think that you're just the body and there's nothing more about you than the physical matter? Raise your hands. How many of you think that there is something non-material about you that's beyond the body? Raise your hands. Okay. So then what are you going... Oh, one more question. How many are not sure? It could be either way. So, everyone raises their hand that they are more than the body. But where do you get the information of your non-material self? And how do you satisfy the non-material self? So please let this weekend motivate you to face these most important facts and issues. Are you just matter, or are you something beyond matter? Where do we get knowledge about that? Yet Krishna in Bhagavad Gita says, I'm going to teach you. If you're not envious of me, I'll give you this knowledge. This is kind of embarrassing in that everyone here feels that they are more than just matter, but where is the knowledge? And where is the science for how to satisfy your non-material self? And what does your non-material self exist in relation to? Let's look at Bhagavad Gita 9:2. a very famous verse from Bhagavad Gita. Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Parikshavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So there you see the characteristics of the greatest wealth in life, the greatest resource. Non-material knowledge. It's the king of education, number one. Number two, Rajaguyam, the secret, the most secret of all secrets. Pavitram, it's the purest knowledge. And Payaksha avagamam dharmyam, it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It gives experience. So it's not only blind faith. You just need a little bit of good fortune, a little bit of good faith to walk into the laboratory and make the experiment. But then you get the experience, the results. And this process of Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga, is everlasting and joyfully performed. It's not dependent on your body. It goes on, lifetime after lifetime, on into eternity. Any questions? Yes. Yes, please.
So I want to find a balance. Thank you. So I want to find balance between spiritual life and material life. But sometimes what happens with me is I get too much into spirituality that I tend to do inaction, like I just get into inaction phase where I just don't feel like taking any action. But if you want to get ahead in your material life, you do need action from my understanding. So how can I overcome this inaction phase?
I recommend, it's a very good question by the way, I recommend that you study Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of experts, because Bhagavad Gita is an action book. That's why Krishna spoke it on the battlefield in between two armies. Arjuna wanted to be inactive, and Krishna chastised him. So you need to read Bhagavad Gita under guidance. It's very good that you've come to this realization. Don't be like Arjuna, who wanted to use spiritual life as an excuse to be inactive. Krishna wouldn't allow that. Arjuna said to Krishna, Tat kim karmani gore mam. Krishna, how could you urge me to engage in this ghastly warfare? I'd rather just walk away, renounce it all. But Krishna told him, you're speaking foolishly. Act for my pleasure. So bhakti, Krishna consciousness, means learning how to act for Krishna's pleasure, not to give up all actions. So let us not use Krishna as an excuse for laziness. We need to know how to set proper goals and strive to achieve those goals. Arjuna fought with Krishna in the center. So we need to learn how to work, how to have a family, how to marry, how to raise children, all with spiritual development in the center. It requires guidance, training, on-the-job training. Okay?
Thank you.
We have experts here. You're in IT also?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So we have IT wallahs here. They have families. They have wife, children. They are putting on this whole weekend for your benefit. So how can one say that they're inactive or not doing anything? You can ask them. Where do you work?
In IT company.
Huh?
I work for IT company.
Work for IT company. Which one?
KV Interactive. KV Interactive.
KV Interactive. So all right, you have a job. You have a son, so I assume you're married. This is Australia, you know, you have to. Yeah. Where's your son? How old is he?
5.5 years.
5.5-year-old son. All right. You have a wife? Yes. Is she here?
Yes.
Where is she? Raise your hand, please. Okay. So it's all going on, you see? But there's something completely different about the core of their life. So they can teach you. He's been doing this for so many years. How many years now?
14 years.
14 years. He'll show you it's possible. For some of you the rare few of you, and I know it's just going to be a rare one or two, don't worry, who are thinking you would like to join the saffron sect. Just very few, don't worry. You have an example like Gopavrindesh. He did his PhD at Melbourne Uni. And what did you do your PhD in again?
Wireless communication.
Wireless communication. But now he is engineering the greatest communication network. Putting Krishna's lost parts in connection with Krishna again. Reestablishing the communication between the soul and the Supreme Soul. So it's all happening. So it's too late for you to think about the saffron life. But you have so many examples, so many guides available for your household life. I wanted to make the whole world my family, so to do that, you can't have your own biological family. But I know people on every continent of the world. If I had my own biological family, I couldn't do that. I have persons who are closer than kin on every continent, even though they're not blood related. Every continent of the world. I've been traveling on every continent of the world for over 40 years. The spiritual bonds are even more intense than the family bonds, than the biological bonds. So, okay, I also have my family. You can be a part of it also. Sometimes we think that if we take to this Krishna consciousness, this bhakti, we'll be all alone. No, your family increases. You know so many persons from all parts of the world. This is the greatest multinational effort. And here you can see that Krishna is for everyone. Krishna is beyond just one ethnicity. All living entities are part of Krishna. Everyone can benefit. This is the real treasure of India. The greatest export product of India is non-material knowledge and non-material lifestyle information. Very nice question. Any others? You've been around for a while, but okay.
Just one quick one.
Okay.
So you were, Maharaj, you were talking earlier that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. So if he's the supreme enjoyer, how do we overcome that tendency to imitate Krishna as the supreme enjoyer?
By recognizing Krishna's status and following his instructions. He says in Bhagavad Gita, all that you do as an offering for me. All your activities, dedicate to me. You're entitled to do your duty, but, as Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of Gita, you're not entitled to the fruits, the results. Krishna is the enjoyer of all endeavors. He's the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Bhoktanam yagatapasam sarva loka maheshram. Krishna is the enjoyer of all endeavors, activities, sacrifices. Shape your life in that way. And then naturally, easily, you'll lose the illusion that we are the enjoyers, we are the controllers. And that illusion is causing all the pain and all the problems. What's in it for me? What am I going to do for me? Anything else? Yes.
Recently I got a Bhagavad Gita book from one of my friends, and I don't know if I'll be getting any help from expert when I'll be going through that book. But what do you suggest? Like if I go through that book, will it help?
Definitely.
Okay.
You have Bhagavad Gita as it is?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Read it cover to cover. And you can get help. You're living in Melbourne?
Yes.
So we have so many experts who are ready to help you. We have so many Bhagavad Gita specialists who can help you decode Bhagavad Gita. Actually, the code of Bhagavad Gita is open for everyone. If you have a non-envious attitude, then you won't be bewildered by Bhagavad Gita. Krishna wants you to know him. Should I tell you about the first time I encountered a version of Bhagavad Gita?
Yes.
I was at Yale University and I was looking for the solution to all human problems. So my professors let me study whatever I wanted. They said that's the real purpose of university. Study whatever you like. Try to find the solutions. Challenge yourself. Don't think like a robot. So I decided I wanted to study what I thought was Hinduism. The course of Hinduism met at a problematic time for me. It met at 8 o'clock in the morning. And my friends and I had a strict rule, no courses, no matter what they're about, no courses before 11 a.m. But I decided, in order to study Hinduism, I decided to make the supreme sacrifice and get up at 7:30 for an 8 a.m. course. So I went to the course, taught by a world-famous professor. After all, it was Yale University. All the professors are world-class. And he gave the first assignment. He described what the course was going to be like, and he gave the first assignment that we should read a section of the Upanishads and write an essay on what we thought it meant. So I said to myself, wait a minute. I got up so early in the morning just to get an assignment about how I should speculate. I can do that any time of the day or night with my friends. I don't need to come to class just to speculate on what I think the Upanishads mean. I want a presentation of genuine understanding of these books. I don't want just with my tiny brain to impose my own meaning on it. So I decided not to take the course, but I would go to the university bookstore and get all the books for the course and read them on my own. So one of them was a version of Bhagavad Gita by one Englishman. So he had the verses in the front and his commentary in the back. So I took the book to my flat and I started leafing through it. And I looked at his commentary and I read, Krishna is a concept meant to satisfy both the sentimentalists and the intellectuals. Something inside me, in the core of my heart, told me this is nonsense. I took the book and I threw it against the wall. I responded in the typical student mindset of those times. All the students were into politics and anti-imperialism, anti-Vietnam War, anti-colonialism. So when I threw the book against the wall, I said, just see how this British colonizer has taken the native people of India's book and ruined it. Krishna was protecting me. So I made up my mind. I said, one day I'm going to find a real Bhagavad Gita. And I did a couple of months after I graduated. I found Bhagavad Gita as it is. And then suddenly I could understand Bhagavad Gita. Because everything is clear. There's no insertion of someone else's opinion. Krishna says, and the real Bhagavad Gita simply presents what Krishna says and helps you to understand what Krishna says, not what we would like Krishna to say. So if someone wants to make their own version of Bhagavad Gita, they should just call it their own book. Don't call it Bhagavad Gita. If you say that Krishna is just a concept, that's your idea. It's not what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. So you're very fortunate to have Bhagavad Gita as it is. And yes, we have so many specialists, consultants, who can help you in your studies of Bhagavad Gita. And in that way your life will become successful, genuinely successful. Your family will reap the benefits. Anything else? Ladies, questions? You asked many good questions yesterday. Anyone else? Yes.
How is Mahesh Yogi and his commentary about Gita?
His version of Bhagavad Gita. He does not present what Krishna says. And that's why he ends his commentary where? Right. Because at the end of the 6th chapter, verse 48, what does Krishna say? Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana. Of all the yogis that I've described previously, the topmost is the bhakti yogi. So Mahesh didn't want to go any further. That verse shut him up. But still, he can make some money off of the first 6 chapters. An incomplete presentation of Bhagavad Gita. But the intelligent person would look at the last verse of the 6th chapter and see the topmost yogi is the bhakti yogi. Well, how do I become a bhakti yogi? Stop the book there. It's not good for fame and fortune to go any further. We'll talk more about the problems people create in understanding Krishna. We'll talk more about that in our last session. You see, there are many sadhus in India who create confusion by telling people that the impersonal presence of the spiritual energy is superior to Krishna. But that's not what Bhagavad Gita says. So there could be this yogi, this Baba, this sadhu, but if they say that there's something beyond Krishna, they are completely mistaken and are misleading people, because that's not what Bhagavad Gita says. So how can you write a version of Bhagavad Gita contradictory to what Krishna says? Krishna says there's nothing beyond me, not even the impersonal Brahman. Krishna says in the Gita, Brahmano hi pratishtaham. The impersonal Brahman is based on me, the person. Just like you are a person, you can act impersonally, yes? If there's someone you don't like who's around you, you act like the person's not there, right? That's being impersonal. But that impersonal expression of yours is based on you being a person. So similarly in the Gita, Krishna explains he has an impersonal presence, but it's subordinate to him, the person. We'll talk more about this in our last session. I'm so happy that so many of you are becoming interested in Krishna. We want you to understand that Krishna is not simply some Hindu god. The sun is not simply the Indian sun or the Australian sun. The sun shines on everyone. Where do we get knowledge of that one sun? You may see the sun differently, but that's your problem, not the sun's problem. The sun is one, the sun is for everyone. You may filter the sun's rays through your own filter, but that's your problem. So people have different interpretations and visions of what is the Supreme. But why not take the knowledge straight from the Supreme? Why not take your sunlight straight? You want to understand the sun? Go stand out in the sunshine. Why take reflected sunlight? Get your experience of the sun directly. So similarly, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is giving you the method for how to experience him. Why not take it? Krishna is for everyone. Sometimes when I'm speaking outside of India, persons ask me the question, why have you taken to Indian religion? I say, I have not taken to any Indian religion. I have taken the perfection of religion, the perfection of knowledge. But isn't Krishna Indian? I said, well, look, even if you think that, shouldn't you always want the best no matter what, where in the world it comes from? For example, if I would offer you a Mercedes or a BMW, what would you say? Here, take it. Mercedes, BMW 700 series. What would you say? Huh?
Yes. Thank you.
No, you should say, oh, that's a German car. We cannot take it. You wouldn't say that. You'd say, I want the best, no matter where it comes from, right? Please, give me the Mercedes. Give me the BMW 700 series. Everyone knows it's the best. I'll take it. Or if I offer you a Bentley or a Rolls Royce, oh no, it's from the British colonizers. We will not take it. You want the best, simply. So why not objectively understand what is the best spiritual knowledge, the most comprehensive, profound spiritual information, and take it. This is the information age. Why not take the best information? Whether it's Indian or this or that or the other, you want the best. Just like when it's time to buy a car. If you can have the money to buy whatever car you choose, You would study all the reviews, right? You would do online research. Oh, BMW, Mercedes, best for longevity, best for prestige, best for holding its value. But then you would say, oh, but it's German, sorry, cannot take it. So I wanted the best. This is a global world. You take the best product, no matter where it comes from. It's like my youngest brother. He is General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer for all of Toyota in the whole world. Sometimes he asks me, why? How? You are from America and you're doing this Indian thing. I said, well, look at you. You're doing the Japanese thing. No, but everyone knows Toyota, is the best car for the money. So I said, okay, so everyone knows that Bhagavad Gita is the best spiritual knowledge available. So even though you're from America, you're working for Toyota. Twice a month he flies to Toyota City in Japan and talks to the board because he's General Counsel and Compliance Officer for the whole world of Toyota. He's always traveling. So even though you're American, he knows how to act Japanese. He bows. So why can't I have you want to offer the world the best auto product. Toyota is the world's greatest, it's the world's biggest motor company now. Volkswagen tried, but then they got caught cheating. Would you have been an IT person working for Volkswagen who did those cheating arrangements? It's all IT, right? If they paid you enough, you would have done it, right? So anyway, it's the biggest motor company in the world. And no one questions, you are American, why are you working for Toyota? Why don't you work for Ford or General Motors? So, all right, I am from America, so I work for Krishna. The best employer, the biggest employer, offering the best. What is the problem? So we'll talk more about this in our next session. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.